Welcome to Bourbon School. I'm Lauren.
And I'm Brian, and today we are going to talk small batch bourbons, what that means, and some great examples for you to go get.
Marianne's a small batch.
She
small
really
batch
is.
lady.
She's a little small batch. Coming right up, guys.
Okay, Brian, for anyone in the audience who doesn't know, can you tell us what a small batch is?
Okay, so small batch bourbon means they select a small number of barrels to then blend and batch together to create a unique kind of craft kind of bourbon.
That's where the master blenders come in.
That's right. And so the blender really needs to like have a good palate where they make a bourbon that it's better than the sum of its parts.
Well, that's a great way of putting it.
So the other thing about small batch bourbon is, and it can be 10 barrels, it can be 20 barrels. Sometimes a small batch can be 100 or 200 barrels.
I don't like that.
That
feels cheap.
That's a lot.
It'll
Yeah.
all depend on kind of the size of the overall operation. Like small is relative, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So, but what the other thing you generally find out of a small batch bourbon, and this really is a credit to the blender, is consistency. You know, you should, bottle to bottle of a small batch bourbon, you should get a pretty consistent flavor profile. And so there's a lot of small batch bourbons out there, and they range from very, very reasonable budget pours all the way up to, you know, a more expensive bottle. And we kind of have a range here of bottles that we're going to talk about. But I think it's one of those things that gets thrown around. Small batch is a term that gets thrown around a lot, and it's not an official term. Like it's not like it's not part of like the regulations of how you have to call a bourbon.
It's like a commercial term.
It's marketing, right?
Marketing, yeah.
But there are some really great small batch bourbons, and I think they're really good, like I said, for consistency and also for introing somebody to bourbon, because a small batch bourbon, generally speaking, is not going to have really wacky flavor notes or
And they're usually proofed down a little bit.
yeah, and they can be proofed down as well. We have some low, some high. But yeah, I mean, I think they're nice bourbons to intro to somebody. So we kind of came up with a list of 6 small batch bourbons that should be really easy to find, pretty reasonably priced. And I would say all of these are crowd pleasers.
Yeah.
Like you could give them to any level of bourbon drinker and they'd probably enjoy them.
Yeah.
You want to go
sure.
first?
Sure. So my first one is the Four Roses small batch. If you can find the select, even better. So this is a blend of 4, which that gives me small batch vibes. You want
It's
rather than it being 200 barrels. But this one is, I mean, I think we've said this before, but Four Roses doesn't do great in blinds, but just drinking it on its own, I still very much enjoy Four Roses. This one is, it's creamy, it's spicy, it's fruity, and it's a little bit, it's not as sweet as some other.
Yeah.
Four Roses in general isn't as sweet.
Right.
It's a little got more of a rye flavor to it.
Yeah.
But I really like it, and you can find it
easy for like $30 probably.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, I will stay with that theme because I actually put small batch select on my list.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Sorry.
So no, you're fine because they're 2 different bottles, and it actually it's valuable to know the difference between these 2. So the small batch is that teardrop shaped bottle with the yellow label. The small batch select has like a darker, like a black or brown label. In the small batch select, they take 6 of the recipes instead of 4 of the recipes and blend them together. It's a little higher proof. It's 104. I believe the small batch is 90 or 95 maybe. It's a little more expensive. It's $58 for a bottle. And they don't age state it, but people out there have said it's probably around 7 or 8 years old. So you're getting some age on it too. I like it because it's a nice in-between of like the single barrel and the small batch and the barrel strengths, which are a lot harder to find. So you still get a significant amount of proof. Honestly, some of those single barrel strengths aren't much more than 104 proof. They're like 108, 109, 110. So it's not like it's a crazy step down from a barrel strength. And like we talked about with small batches, you're getting consistency. And it does have the things that you described in the Four Roses small batch, the spice and the rye. You get a little bit of fruitiness in it. It really is peppery. It's probably my favorite Four Roses bottle is the small batch select. I enjoy it quite a bit. So
definitely. Okay, so for my next pick, I picked kind of a really basic one that you can pick up anywhere, and that's Elijah Craig small batch. This one is a perfectly traditional good bourbon.
Yep.
It's sweet. It's very corn forward, as I like to say. And it hits those vanilla notes. It's oaky.
yes,
It's exactly what I like in bourbon. It's
Yeah.
just a traditional bourbon. Elijah Craig is old reliable, and
yeah.
it's just good stuff.
And
you
it's
can
cheap,
find it.
too.
It's cheap, and it's good quality.
Yeah.
So that was my next pick.
So I will stay basic with you on this one and go Knob Creek 9.
That was on my list, and I crossed it off.
Knob Creek 9 is kind of the same deal. It's a classic kind of traditional bourbon. It adds in a ton, for me, a ton of caramel and a ton of nuttiness. It's got that Jim Beam nuttiness, but it doesn't overpower like when you drink a Jim Beam. 100 proof, so it's a really nice proof point, especially for like a warm-up pour to start your night. Age stated at 9 years. That means it's at least 9 years old. It's probably a little bit older. And 35, and it drives me crazy because people outside of Western New York and other places get it for like $30.
Wow.
And it's pretty consistently closer to 40 around us. But it is a great, it's one of the lower end, not lower end, but we'll say cheaper pours that I'll sip anytime.
I believe we had that one
I was
summer.
just going to say, it
Yeah.
reminds me of the time at your house.
Oh.
Yep.
What a great memory.
I don't
though.
remember.
No, I know.
But you can sip it, and it also makes an exceptional, like old-fashioned or Manhattan. It's great in a cocktail.
It's a good standard.
It is. I love
on your
it.
shelf.
It's a classic. Everybody should have a Knob Creek 9 on their shelf.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so my last one is a Michter's small batch. And I think they're 8 years old. I have that in my notes. So that's a nice age
Yeah,
on
yeah.
it. It's just good stuff. It's blended well. It's not overly heavy. It has more bright, kind of lighter flavors to it. But I really like it, and I think, it's not too expensive.
No,
It might be, is it the most
No,
expensive one?
40 or $50, and
40 or
it's
50?
mine. The one I'm going to tell you is the most expensive.
Oh, okay. So this is the runner-up for
Yeah,
expensive.
and the small batch select is actually more at 58, but my
Oh, that's
last
right.
one's the most expensive. But we reviewed Michter's, God,
while
a
back.
long time ago, and I remember us saying like, it's like light and easy. Like it is a nice
Easy
light
drinker.
bourbon. Yeah, absolutely. That's a great one. Okay, my final one is Doc Swinson's Blender's Cut. And this is
I like Doc Swinson's too.
Yes, absolutely. I just killed a single barrel that we got at a store down south of us, and it's so good. But Doc Swinson's Blender's Cut, it's the highest proof of anything we've had here. It's 115 proof. It is the most expensive at $65. But and it's at least 5 years old, so it doesn't have the age statement of some of these other ones we have. So some people might be looking sideways at us like, what, the most expensive and least age and all that. But I love this bottle. It is like, it shows you what a good blender can do with bourbon. Like, so Doc Swinson's sources from MGP, and then they take two different recipes from MGP and they make this blend. And it is sweet, it is spicy, it is a little bit nutty. Like, it is a perfectly rounded bourbon with a little bit of uniqueness to it. Like, it's not necessarily just a
Standard
traditional.
It's got a little something else
It's got
to
a
it.
little something
There's
to
the
it.
blending genius at work.
And I think, I have said this before, I think that Doc Swinson's does the best things with MGP. Like, there are others out there that I haven't tried, but there are some people love Nulu and some others that do some wild finishes and stuff with MGP. I don't think I've had a better company that does things with MGPs than Doc Swenson's. It's delicious, and I love the Blender's Cut. So that's my last pick.
It's a good list.
Yeah, I like it.
All right. Let us know in the comments what your favorite small batch bourbon is.
Yes.
And if you liked our video, don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and ring the bell for notifications.
So you never miss another episode of Bourbon School.
We got to cheers with our water.
We're going to cheers
today.
with our water because we don't have a pour.
Cheers.
Cheers.